There we go. There we go. Hi everyone, welcome back into the Academy here at Chesterfield Golf Club. It's lovely to have you along. My name is Warren Bennett. This little thing's called Trev on the floor, so hopefully he'll make himself scarce. We've got both studios open for now, so but he's got his ball, so he's going to enjoy himself. So welcome along to another video. This one's all going to be about driving, and as we know, the driver can be the hardest club in the bag to use for some of you. Why? Because if we've got certain traits in our swing that discourage using a driver, I'm going to try and change that for you today. Because the driver, as we know, has got the least degrees, obviously apart from a putter. So it's got the least degrees in the club we've got in the bag. And if you've got certain traits, you can turn that, let's say I've got a 9.5, but let's say you've got a 10.5, even a 12 degree driver. If you've got that, and if you've got these traits that obviously come over the top and de-lofting that driver, you're taking a lot of degrees off that, and that's why people tend to hit the 3-wood, and it tends to be a bit more user-friendly. But I'm going to give you a tip today to hopefully help you hit a driver and be able to get it up in the air and create the maximum distance that you can. So let's get on with it. So I've got a couple of props to use, but what you don't want to do with a driver, and I see a lot of people who shy away from the driver or tend to not use it as much as they can, or they tend to not use it to their advantage. So obviously, what is a driver for is to create the most distance in the bag, but people shy away from that because it's tending to do the opposite. So what you don't want to do with the driver is basically come over the top to have you can have an in to out path, but not too extreme. And people who struggle a lot with the driver have an in to out path. So have an out to in path, I'm sorry. We're trying to get an in to out path. So yeah, an out to in path. So an out to in path neglects the way you're going to weight transference and obviously the way the club's going to hit the ball. So you're going to come across it, probably open the club face to stop it going left. That's going to add the loft and spin left to right. So it's really going to take a lot of yardage off. I'm going to give you a feel today to encourage the opposite, to hit more from the inside and be able to let go and release the golf club. So it gives you a little bit more power without you thinking about it. And I say that a lot in our videos. If you've seen one of my videos, go a lot about trying to let the club face past you, but you can't do that if your transition's wrong. And obviously in the stop slicing series, we reverted all the way back. So we rewinded our swing. We're going to help put ourselves in the best position possible to give you this inside approach. But I'm going to give you this inside approach straight away by a feel. Right, so I'm just going to show you something. Actually, I'm going to start with the driver first. So what you don't want to do in the transitions, I see a lot of people who struggle, and especially come over the top. So if you're an over the top slicer, is what you don't want to do with a driver is dominate the sequence of your swing with your top half. So if you're too aggressive with the rotation of your top half over your bottom half, you're going to really encourage two things. The club's going to want to come out, so you can see from the behind view, it's outside the line. It's obviously very extreme here just to show you for effect. And it's going to encourage a downward approach. So if you have a descending blow into the ball for a driver, two things are going to happen. You're either going to scull it across the floor, or after a period of time, everyone's brain and internals and everyone's gyroscope in their head, quite clever, without them knowing they're probably going to back away, and there's the aggressive slice and loss of distance. So what you don't want to do, the steering wheel behind that, for a majority of people, is a too active top half in the transition. Very difficult place to focus on, as we know. So 3/4 of the way up to kind of a third of the way down. It's really quick, as we know. There's a lot going on there, very hard to change that, but I'm going to try and change it for you today. So I've got a couple of props here, so things we have to do. So I've got a white stick and I'm going to put it through my belt. This is just for effect. Put it through my belt loop. So this is what's going to show you what my hips are doing. Okay, hopefully that's pretty straight. Let me have a look. Okay, new fashion. And I've got the yellow stick. Let me check that's parallel. Not too bad. Make sure that's right. Right, okay, so they're pretty parallel, hopefully. It doesn't have to be perfect, and obviously don't do this, but I'm going to show you for effect the yellow stick compared to the white stick. So obviously the yellow stick is what my shoulders are doing, white stick are what my hips are doing. So let's go back to the top of the backswings. We're going to hopefully get into a nice coil position, sit into that right bum, really twist those hips a little bit. So you're really sitting some weight into that right side. So if I show you that over the topper, so you can see from the behind, the sticks are kind of parallel with each other again, even exaggerated. Even the yellow stick is now tilting down more than the white. That's obviously exaggerated. I'm showing you what an aggressive and too rotational transition does. Okay, so this is what I'm going to try and get you to do. So I'm going to firstly get you to do the drill here just with the shoulder, and I'll show you just with a club, but I'm going to show you just for effect about what it should do. So just think about if your arms were going across, going along for the ride, if you did the opposite, so you can see your hips are starting to rotate, right knee, right foot comes up. But what I'm feeling here is my right shoulder goes down. So you can see this is aggressive, this is too much. But you can see the difference now from the hind view, how tilted down my right shoulder and where the left stick is pointing. Completely different now to the white stick. I'm going to show you with the club in a minute what that actually looks like in a golf swing. So what I'm feeling there is backswing, and now I'm feeling kind of my right shoulder tilting down. You may have heard me say in the past, in the previous video, is I went to a coach once and he said, find the one thing that cures 4 things. So you don't have to work on those 4 things, the one thing does it. Unfortunately, I didn't know that one thing for my swing back then, but anyway. Okay, so let's show you what that looks like with a driver in our hand. So obviously slightly go back to what we were working on previous in terms of coil. That's really going to help this transition. Okay, coil back behind the ball, you're not swaying. Right, okay, so let's have a look, see what that looks like. As we know, in the over the top is too aggressive with our shoulders. So we're going to now tilt my right shoulder down, imagining I've still got that stick. And you can see what that's doing now. That's allowing my arms and club, especially my right elbow, to be down instead of someone who goes fishing away from it. So from here, you can practice these little kind of drop downs, and you're really getting used to the feeling of that. And you can see from the behind view how shut I am now. That's the secret to allow the club to pass you, because you can't get the club to pass you if you're over and your shoulders are aiming too far left. You can let it pass you, but you'll just pull hook it probably and smother anyway. You could top it, as in hitting on top of the ball. So again, I'll show you, so really down. Now you don't want to continue that, but good, remember the 4 things, curing the 4 things. One thing is separation. So now I've got separation of hip and shoulder because of the direction my right shoulder goes in, exaggerated. But if I wanted to hook it, that's what I would do. From there, then you let go. Remember the back to the target I did in the slice series? That's kind of what I'm doing. But the angle of my shoulder, my right shoulder, gives me that as well. And then what you can do now is you can layer a little drop. Remember, it's only probably about that much in reality anyway, but I'm exaggerating it. Keeps my head behind the ball. And from here, you're allowing the release to go past the ball. So really release, remember, just a little very simple description of what release is. The butt of the club is here. I'm just getting the butt of the club. I'm basically pointing the club the other way. So because kind of the butt of the club doesn't move very much, as you can see, but the head moves past it. I'm not moving the handle, what I call handle happy. So holding onto the handle, which is this side of the club. I'm letting it go, so I'm taking its place. End of the club, the butt of the club, I'm ending its place. So if I layer that feeling, drop and release, drop and release. Now when you go and hit it, it's probably definitely a dual feeling at the same time, because apart from practice swings and rehearsals, which is I would really encourage, you've got to, I'm just going to watch Trev here. Trev, out the way, good boy. Just don't want to hit him, come out of the way, good boy. So apart from a practice swing where you can kind of rehearse it and break it down a little bit in terms of movements, you've got to, at full speed, it's pretty much the same thought. As you can see, by the time you get here in your thought, you've got to let it go. You can see, now I don't need to do that because that's easy for me. But for someone who's an over-the-topper, quick with their shoulders, that really encourages her. Now at the very start of the video, you saw me doing some warm-up exercises. That's a really good one. Really allowing. So we've all seen the club across your shoulders. Make sure there's a pretty much even either side. Cross your hands over to hold the shaft. Cross your shoulders. Now you're feeling the same thing here. So you're trying to point the club head up. Now you can do that at home. Just very gently. Doesn't have to do it as much as I can. Because remember, anything new, you're just going to put a little bit of emphasis on different parts of the body. So any sort of change. And I remember reading Golf World as a little kid, and I always remember Nick Price saying, any sort of changes in your golf swing, just be careful, because you are going to highlight different muscles, and especially this, because if your tendency to go here and rotational, there's no kind of tilt back, as you can see. If I do that, now you can see there's a kind of what's called a reverse C. And we only need a little bit of that. Obviously I'm showing you quite a lot from here. Start, twist back, under. Very hard to slice from there. Much easier to release from there. Right, let's try one. Okay, from tee. Okay, let's see if I can get one before Trev comes in the way. Right, let's just give it a go. So I always like to give myself a little rehearsal. So we're going to drop, release, allow everything to pass my body. Remember, that's the secret to more distance and straighter hitting, especially for you slicers. Okay, let's give it a go. Now obviously we're inside because it's winter here in the UK and freezing cold, but I felt like I really got hold of that in terms of a release. I felt that ball draw. I know it's really weird because there's only 3 meters ahead of me, but I could definitely feel the release draw there. And that's what I'd like a little bit of your swing to achieve. So remember, rehearsal, rehearsal, rehearsal. Really, the more you can do it, the more you tilt back with these shoulders, the easier it is for this club to swing past. Remember, out on the golf course, it's always going to revert back to old, especially if there's a wind into. We're always trying to get into the ball a bit too quickly. But remember trying to solve 4 things by changing 1. That's the secret. This is a really big one. Your shoulders and your torso are the steering wheel for your golf swing, not just your hands. Now, a lot of videos I go on about getting the hands in, which is really important, and I'll carry on doing that. But remember, if your shoulders are too quick, very hard for your hands to drop in. So just a little bit. Remember, any sort of change, you don't want to change the needle too much. Just a little bit, but especially in practice swings, you can do it a lot. And you can see from the behind view, the more I drop my shoulder, the more my hands want to go this side of the fence instead of this side. Okay, so very, very, very effective exercise that I've given some of my clients here in the academy. So next time you go out, if you're struggling to get to the back of the ball, especially if you're struggling to create the distance and height, being able to use your driver, give that a go. Please let me know how you get on in the comments. Love to hear from you. Thank you for all the support. It's been amazing. And I look forward to the next video. From myself and Trev, all the best.